So hello everyone, we're back at it again. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to cover loops, specifically while loops and for loops, and also arrays in the same time, because you know they are being used in various kinds of applications. I did mention them previously, but there are different use cases, and we're going to apply all of our knowledge at the same time whilst we're writing our own code. You might have noticed that I start these videos with no template at all. One really nice thing about Python, you don't need a template to write your code. You can just open any text editor and just start writing. That's it. So, however, if you want to execute your Python code, you might want to install Python on your computer, which I showed you in the first video in this series. Anyway, that's enough ramble. Let's talk about loops. So, how does a loop work? Essentially, a loop, let me just write a while loop first and explain it as I'm writing it. So let's say you have a variable called I, and it will have the value of 1. And then I want to check if while is smaller than 6, for example. It's kind of like a if statement, but it will keep on doing it until it's not true. So we're going to do while I is, let's do smaller than 6, then indent it, and then we want to do print, because we want to print out the number that it's currently at, y, so we want to print out the number that it currently uses, and then I want to do, I think I plus, I think, I cannot type apparently, so it doesn't work right. I think I actually have to do like I plus equals 1. I think it's actually easier to write like this. Let's see what happens if we run this as it is. And let's add in another text which will say, let's do print while loop end. So we know that it left the loop as soon as it's finished. So now what we do is we just execute our commands. So let me just do and it says it doesn't know this, so it doesn't work like this. So we actually have to do it the way I did it before, with the plus equals 1. And as you can see, it printed it out starting from 1, and it printed out till 5. But why till 5? We specified 6. You need to add a equal sign here in order to make it print all the way up to 6. See? Now it prints up all the way out to 6, because it will end right before 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you add the equal sign to it, if you want to have from 1 to 6, you have to add the equal sign in. So it will print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then it will exit the loop. So that's the loop for us. So that's the while loop. It's just as simple as this. But while loops aren't that elegant. Now they are really neat if you need to do something real quick, but I prefer a different type of loop. Now there are also different ways you can do. You can add a break statement and such, which is a interesting method. What you could do is we could add into here a break statement, but in order to execute the break statement properly, we want to add a if statement. Now from the last video you might remember that if statements are used to check for conditions. So let's say that if our number I is equal to 3 by any chance, so we need to move this away. We'll move it all the way to the bottom. And so if our I variable is by any chance or any point equal to 3, we want to break. What break does, it will exit the loop. It will exit the loop as soon as it's equal to 3. So let's run this, and there it is. So as soon as it's equal to 3, it will exit the loop, because we added a if statement. So it goes, yeah, so I am at number 1 and I'm smaller than 6, I will print myself out. Check if I'm smaller than 3. If I'm equal to 3, I'm 1, so I'm not equal to 3. I will increment. Write myself out. I'm 2. 2 is not equal to 3. I will continue on. I will add myself once again. I'm number 3. I print number 3. I am equal to number 3, so I must leave the loop. And once I leave the loop, I print out this text, which is what it did. There's also a continue statement, so essentially it will stop the iteration and continue with the next, well, set of code essentially. In order to show it you properly in action, we must do a small modification. The modification is we're going to replace our print function, the print I, with this, and we'll do here the print I, and we're going to change our break to continue. As you can see, it also gives me a suggestion, and that's it. So essentially, if we decide to run our code now, you'll notice that it skipped number 3. Why is that? Well, let me actually fix this before we do anything. So to make it print out the numbers as we used before, there we go. So you might have noticed that it skipped number 3 altogether. So we have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Why is there a 7? Well, it added it up by 1, and you know, to make it print out correctly, we need to also change this to our older example, and there it is, the older one with just the number 3 not being in there. What we can do, in fact, is we can also adjust it for more numbers. So we can do and I is equal to, let's say, 6, 5? Let's do 6, why not? If we execute it, you can see it doesn't do it because number 6 is not present. But if it's equal to number 5, it will skip number 5, which it didn't. Why? Well, you see, it doesn't really work that way. In fact, a much better approach will be to just write it out separately as another function. So what we can do is we can add another one and set it to be equal to, I don't know, 5, for example. If we write this out now, you'll notice that we're missing the numbers 3 and 5. So it's much easier to write out this way. It's not elegant, but it works. There can also be used else statements. You know, it really depends on your imagination now. So you can use if statements, else statements, and such. But it's really up to you. And that's pretty much it. So this is the while loop in its entirety. The next one I would like to cover is the for loop. Now, you might have remembered from our previous example, or from the video I was talking about data types and converting those data types, I mentioned a little thing called an array. And an array is essentially a list of items that we can loop through. So we could either use a while loop, but it's not an ideal one, you know, it doesn't allow us to search through arrays. However, one loop that allows us to do that is the for loop. So to paint a pretty good picture, let me clear this out. And we can remove all of this, because we're not going to need any of this. So to create such a thing, we're going to first define ourselves an array. Now, to make this simple, I'm going to create a fruits array that will be a list, so the square brackets, and we'll add in items like, I don't know, let's do banana, let's do, what was this, that apple. Also, don't forget to add the double quotes in, because, you know, double quotes are important and such. And let's do I don't know, let's do a cherry on top, so cherry. And that's our list, you know. That's our list that we've created, a list of fruits. We have a banana, an apple, and a cherry. So now we're going to use a for loop. So to explain this, we're going to do that for, not type that, type today. So for x, which is essentially for an item in fruits, so in our list of items, so for each item in our list of item called fruits, we want to print it out. So we do this, print x. What this will do, it will print out each and every item that is inside of our list. What we can do actually is we can also loop through each letter in a string. So let's say we create ourselves a string. We don't actually have to set it separately, we can just use the for loop as we have. So we can do for x, not type again, for x in, and then we write out the string itself. I don't know, Coca-Cola. No, let's do something else. Let's do banana. Banana, there we go. And we do the double dots thing, and we print out each letter, so we do print x. Remember, as I mentioned, that Python converts these automatically to strings? There's one major advantage. You can print out each letter just by doing this. Don't believe me? Well, let's run it. Let's see what happens. What did it do? It printed out each letter in the string. Now obviously we can use the break statement if it comes across something. So I'm going to use this as an example. So I'm going to do a if statement. So if x is equal, bear in mind we're checking we're printing out each and every letter in our string, is equal to, I don't know, let's get rid of those ends in there because I don't like these. It's not a good example now, is it? Because as soon as it comes across a n, it will just, you know, it will exit the loop. However, I'm gonna do something different. I'm going to use the continue. Come on, there we go. So what will happen is it will skip the letter n now. Whoops. And it doesn't know what to do with this. Oh boy. If x is equal to n, continue, then print. I might have done something wrong, haven't I? For x in banana, did we like exit it? Oh, wait a minute, there we go. It doesn't know what to do. It tried to print it out but didn't know what to do with it. So there we go. You need to swap them around. And it's still not correct. What am I doing wrong? Well, obviously, this thing. So first we're checking if the letter is equal to n. If it is, it will continue, which is not what I want. So we're just gonna replace those again because I'm a total dunce and I kind of think. There we go. So it should not work. And as you can see, it just did nothing. So let's just use the break thing to exit the loop entirely. Oh great. There we go, break. And we can do, again, just to make sure, we can do print exited the for loop at first n. So what will happen now is if we run this, you can see it got to the first n and it will exit the loop right away. Now, I could in fact just have done this, but like, you know, we could in fact do that it like skips it outright, just set x equal to nothing. So as soon as it's equal to x, as soon as x is equal to n, it will replace it with nothing. And I want to print it out, so we're not gonna use the print exit thing now. And what it will do, it should replace it with nothing, which it didn't, obviously. So, to make it work, I think... Oh no. There we go. It has to be in the correct order. As you can see, it still doesn't work. Wanna know why? Because you need to nest it like this. Nest it, I'm sorry. So if it's... What am I doing? So what I did now is it just printed out those ends. Which is not what you do. So we need to move this out. And if we... There we go, now it skipped them. So it skipped them, but it didn't, like, you know, do anything. So it, like, didn't remove them, it just skipped those, literally. So compared to banana before, you can see the ends are missing. So it literally just says bar. So as soon as it's equal to n, it would just write out nothing. We could also use the range function in this, but it's not really that important. Else works the same way in ifs. You can even nest the loops, but that's only if you're truly desperate. Actually, let me show you how you can nest loops together. So let's make two lists. So we do a adg for adjectives. And when we create our list, and our list will have, I don't know, let's do red, then we do, I don't know, let's do big, and let's do tasty, why not, tasty. And what we can do now is we can create another list called fruits. Once again, our favorite fruits are back. And we create another list of items, obviously, and we do apple, there we go. Next, what we can do is we can do banana, and another thing we can do is cherry, there we go. So these are the two lists, and to create a nested loop, it's fairly easy. So first, what we're going to do is we can do for each item in adjectives, we want to create another loop. So for each y item in fruits, we want to print out x and y in this order. X, y. You'll see why that is. So if we now decide to run it, you will notice that it printed out red apple, red banana, red cherry. Big apple, big banana, big cherry. Tasty apple, tasty banana, tasty cherry. Now, this looks alright, like it works. It does work, it does its job. But it, like, you know. Again, just to reiterate, loops cannot be empty. So if you decide to create an empty loop, just put in a pass. And like I did with the if statement, with the while loop statement, and you'll be ready to go. It won't throw any errors that are like unnecessary, and that's pretty much it. That's like loops along with arrays in its entirety. Again, are, well, not arrays, but these are just the loops in general. So the next thing I want to talk about are arrays. So arrays are simply the thing that I already talked about. Arrays are just these things right here. So the things I refer to as lists are essentially arrays. So we already know what an array is. I explained it already. So you're already using arrays without even realizing it. This array contains adjectives that we're using to describe each and every fruit in the array fruits. Again, big banana, big apple, big cherry, tasty apple, tasty banana, tasty cherry, you know? Now, by itself, arrays are pretty much useful for just a few things. But if you know how to apply them correctly, you can do a bunch of powerful stuff. So these are basically, you already know how to use arrays without even realizing it. Now, arrays are pretty much lists, but you know, you can work with arrays really simply. You can even change values of arrays itself, and look, let's do one thing. Okay, let's actually do just one thing. Let's use our fruits array as an example. Okay, we're going to use our fruits array as an example here, and we're going to get rid of the adjectives because we do not need these, and we're going to set this to x so that we can have a really nice example, and we're going to remove the y section here. So what this code will do is it will just print out apple, banana, and cherry, which is fine. This is what we want. However, let's say we want to, you know, modify a value. Well, let's say we want to modify the apple to kiwi. To do that, you would have to do this. Type in or type out the name of the array, square brackets to define the item. So we want to replace, for example, apple with kiwi. So you put in a 0 because they're counted like 0, 1, and 2. You know, self-explanatory. And then you type in what you want to replace it with. As I said, we're going to use kiwi, so let's use kiwi as an example. So what it will do is it will replace the item apple with kiwi. So it will do the same thing, but instead of apple, it will say kiwi. There it is. It says kiwi, even though apple is defined here. We can use this to essentially, you know, replace the second item, so we have to use a 1 with, I don't know, let's use a grape, for example. So now our second item, which was the banana originally, will say grape. As you can see, it says grape. What else is there? I know, so let's use this example again, and we're going to set number 2. So we'll replace our third item, and our third item will be, let's use peach. Peach, there we go. And now we've completely replaced each and every item in our list. Now it says kiwi, grape, and peach instead of apple, banana, and cherry. So that's how you essentially work with arrays. Now, it's really cool and all, but we can in fact get also the length of an array, which is really useful as well. So let's say we want to get the length of an array. So to do that, I'm going to actually remove all of this because it's not needed. Let's keep our array the original one with the fruits. And instead of x, we're going to use the len function, which is short for length. And inside of here, we're going to type in, fruits. What it will do, it will print out the length of our array. which is 3, because we have 3 items in our array. I mentioned this before, we can loop through items with for, which I already mentioned. We can also append, so we can add one more element to our array. So to show you that it actually does this, we're going to use our for loop again. So for x in fruits, print out x. And what you can do now is, let's say you want to do, we want to print out the length. So we're going to print out the length right now. And then let's say we want to use this again, but this time we're going to change this to y. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another item to it. Now to add another item to it, we're going to use the name fruits dot then append, because we want to add another item to it. And let's say you want to add a kiwi. So we're essentially doing this. Now to make this a bit more readable for the end user, we can in fact, you know what, we're going to keep it as it is. I'm going to explain what it does as soon as it's done. So with this done, what it should do is it should add another item. So what it will do is it will print out the first 3 items, check the length, which should say 3, then add the item kiwi, print it out along with kiwi, and write out 4 items instead of 3. So let's see what it does. And there it is. So what it did is we have our array of 3 items, apple, banana, and cherry. We used a for loop to print out all 3 of our items, and then we printed out the length of our array, which has the length of 3 because we have 3 items in it. Then we added, or appended if you will, the item kiwi to it, then printed out the newly created array, because we have a difference, so for each y item instead of x in fruits, so it's a new array, so we are printing out apple, banana, cherry, and kiwi because it has been added. And then we print out the length of fruits. So our fruits, our items in fruits have been increased by 1, so we're printing out, the length has been increased by 1, sorry. So now it says 4 because there are 4 items in our array. Now we can actually even remove items. So let's say we're going to just, remove an array. Let's say we want to delete the second item in our array, which in our case is banana. Because why not? So what I can do is I can do fruits, pop, second item, so 0, 1. 1 is the number we want because it's the second item. And then we want to use another for loop so we can have a look at all our items. Let's use z here instead, because x, y, and z, so why not? And then let's print out the length of, our array, of our fruits array, if you will. So yeah, so with this, what it should do now is, if we decide to run this, you will notice one really cool thing. So we started with apple, banana, and cherry, which is our array. We are writing them out, each item in the array, so apple, banana, cherry. We write out the length, which it has the length of 3, because we have 3 items in our array. Then we have added another fruit called kiwi, or appended it, if you will. So we now have apple, banana, cherry, and kiwi. So we have 4 items in our array. And then we have decided to pop out the second item. And the second item in our array is banana. So we'll notice we no longer have apple, banana, cherry, and kiwi. We now have apple, cherry, and kiwi, but no banana. So it has only 3 items in it, which the length, if we print it out, says we have only 3 items in it. Now you could remove a method if you want to, but removing requires that you type it out exactly, but it's not recommended. I recommend that you just use the pop function because it's easier. Again, you can look into this if you want. I'm trying to explain this as easily as possible. I hope it still makes sense. Now there are a bunch of other functions. For example, you can remove all the items from our array. For example, we can clear it out totally. I want you to watch what happens if I use the clear function here. So let's do fruits clear, and that's it. So fruits clear, and if I decide to run it now, it says 0, 1, and it doesn't know because it's out of range, so it cannot pop it out. In order to pop it out fully, we just have to use 0 because it has just 1 item in it. And what it will do is, since we cleared our array like this, it doesn't have anything in the beginning, so it says 0. Then it adds kiwi. It prints out kiwi, so it has just 1 item in it. I pop out the first item in our array, so it has 0, so it has nothing in it. Isn't that cool? So yeah, that's how the clear function works. But yeah, let's return it to its original shape as it was. So if we run this now again, it will do the thing it did before. There are also a bunch of other things you can do. You can even sort the list and stuff, but I don't want to go into that. These are different methods, and it's outside of the scope of this video. Again, I'm trying to make this as simple and as easy to understand as possible. I don't know which video in this series it is. I don't keep track about it at all. The only thing I care about is I can explain everything so that everyone can start using Python in their own, as a sort of a tool set, if you will. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to stay safe and wash your hands, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.